We're here to broaden the perspective of what it means to be a woman. We're talking to the maidens, the mothers, the wild women, the boss babes, the sacred sluts, the housewives, and the woman in you that embodies all of them. I'm Natalie Elliott.
And I'm Ira Lee. Welcome to our space.
This is Woman. I'm Natalie Elliott. I am a radical birth keeper, a yoga teacher, a menstrual cycle educator, and a ceremony facilitator.
I'm Ira, and I'm a radical birth keeper, a trauma-informed yoga instructor, and a women's educator. I specialize in women's life coaching and childbirth education. If you're curious about what any of those titles mean, we'll be discussing them in depth later on, so stay tuned.
Yay. And get ready to hear the story today of how we met. So Ira and I met at a women's festival in North Carolina called Matriarch Rising, hosted by Free Birth Society.
Woo woo!
It was both of our first times there, and we actually were in a maidenhood circle. So maidenhood is that time before you become a mother.
Or step into your mothering energy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And at the very beginning of the maidenhood circle, and remember, we're in North Carolina here, and Ira and I live in California. At the beginning of the circle, everyone was going around and saying their name and where they're from and kind of where they are in their maidenhood journey. And there was a few women who said California, and I was kind of like, ooh. But then Ira was like, I'm from California, and like introduced herself, and something in me just felt like I need to talk to this woman. And so after the circle, she was wearing this like two-piece blue outfit, so I could fully tell who she was. But I didn't remember her name because her name's kind of interesting, you know?
Ira.
And so she was walking away in her little blue outfit, and I'm kind of like half running after her. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so creepy. And I think what I just said was like, wait, you, right? I don't fully remember, but yeah, she turned around and I asked her where she was from in California, and she told me, and we live like 10 minutes apart. Yeah. What else do you want to say about that?
It was up from there. Yeah, we exchanged information. We kind of like hung around each other for the remainder of the festival too, and like went to little stuff together. We danced naked under the stars together.
Yes, we did.
It was really fun. And then afterwards, we literally met up like within like 2 days of us both getting back to California. And yeah, it's just been like beautiful ever since then. We're starting this podcast together. Like, we've become business partners, and it all happened like within like a few months, like really instantaneously. But
yeah,
the podcast is coming to fruition 6 months later or so. I thought it was really beautiful because I prayed and like asked the universe to send me a sister when I went to the festival, and a sister found me. And it's really been beautiful. I gained so much from our friendship together. I love being able to just fully embody myself and be witnessed by someone who does the same thing, and we can just like do that together. Like, nothing matches that feeling of just having a sister, having someone who sees all of you and is like down for the ride, you know?
Yeah, we totally inspire each other all the time. Like, even when Ira asked if I wanted to do a podcast, like, we like immediately went into planning and prepping, and just we create excitement within each other. We co-create, and we've led women's circles together, and it
Which
just
was
like
freaking awesome.
Yeah. Yes, if you're local to us, come to our women's circles. And it's just been a co-creation ever since we met. And I feel like that's kind of the beauty of what this podcast is going to be, you know, is like women co-creating and creating magic together.
Yes.
And you'll see when we start to bring women on this podcast that like just something special happens.
It'd be so great.
I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think we both are in a phase, we're in very similar phases in our lives. And I think we've both stepped into our own a lot this past year, even more so like since we've met. I think like
Yeah.
it's just been a really transformative time, and I think we're both passionate about finding the truth and exploring what womanhood means. I can speak for myself when I say like I'm not really into just like listening to everything someone says and just taking it for word. I think that's kind of the point of this, is like, this is beautiful. And I think it's great that we get to share all of it with you, but really it's our curiosity for like, what does womanhood mean to you and you and you and you? And like, what wisdom can I pick up from you? Like, we learn from our sisters. Like, that's the best way to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Gathering with women is the best medicine. And yeah, I'm just so excited to see like what's gonna come from this.
Yeah, one of my favorite things Era said to me, and I think this was kind of recent, is you were like, I love seeking out differing opinions and just listening to them. And I remember feeling like, wow, I should do that more. But I think what you said is spot on, because like womanhood looks different to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, when I'm sure you can relate, like when I speak that I'm here to like support women and my mission in life is to like allow space for women to celebrate their womanhood. Exactly. Sometimes their response is like, oh, well, I'm not very girly. And like, that's not what it's about at all.
At all.
Womanhood is like, it is a full spectrum experience. And there's so many different ways and flavors. Like we talked about the archetypes at the intro of this podcast. There's so many ways to experience womanhood. And that's what we're really trying to bring forth, is like, what are all the different flavors that are possible? And like, how can we play with that?
And get comfortable with realizing that it doesn't have to be either or. Like, you don't have to just be the sacred slut.
Yeah.
Or the housewife or the mother. Like, and the truth is no one is only one.
Yeah.
Like, we're all of those things. And I think by us really, really like journeying and adventuring and like figuring out, like going to the edges of womanhood, you know, and seeing what it feels like to live there and embody that space, and showing other people like you can do this too. And you're not limited to anything. Yeah. Like you're not limited to anything. You can literally be whatever kind of woman you want on any given day. You know, it's just, I think we get caught up in the way that our society works, is womanhood has to look a very specific way. And that's bullshit. Like, it's just not true.
Yeah. And I mean, we're cyclical beings.
Yes.
We change every day.
Yes. And I think that's that's a big part of what we want to talk about, and help you guys tap into whatever lights you up. Like when you hear a woman come on here and talk about her cyclical nature, or how she's connected to her womb space, or what sisterhood looks like for her, or what motherhood looks like for her, what being a wife looks like for her, or what being single looks like for her, and maybe an entrepreneur, or any combination of all of those things. Like, I want you guys more than anything to just feel like you can do whatever the hell you want to do. There are women that represent every walk of life, and I want you guys to feel represented and feel like, yes, I can.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. It's going to be really exciting once we get guests to come on and talk. If you guys know any women who would be interested, send them our way. We have so many things in the works. We're going to be doing events, and I don't know if we actually said where we're at. We're in Southern California, in Ventura County. And so like we pretty much frequent Ventura County, LA County.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to come to our events, we'll be talking about them here.
Yeah. Do you want to share like some of the topics we're going to be getting into on the podcast?
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I'm really, really into resetting the nervous system and figuring out how we can feel comfortable in our bodies and not overwhelmed and overstimulated constantly, because so many women have that problem. So I'm very much interested in that. Something I'm into, like stepping into now, is trauma-informed yoga. And I think that's beautiful. It's such an amazing tool for like women who have experienced sexual assault, any kind of sexual abuse, or any kind of trauma really. And so I think that trauma-informed yoga is such a beautiful way. It's very, very centered around how can I reset the nervous system? How can I feel safe in my body again? And so that's a topic I'd love to talk about here with you guys. and get a guest on to talk about with us.
Yeah.
It's going to be super exciting.
I'm excited for us to talk about cyclical living in tune with your menstrual cycle and all the phases of it, not just the part where you're actually bleeding, like the ovulation, the luteal, the follicular, how this relates to all the different archetypes and energies we get to embody in a single month. And really also tying that into how we can take our fertility and birth control into our hands without reaching outside of ourselves, like the inherent understandability that we can have for our bodies. One of my favorite quotes is from elder midwife Wapio, who I did a training with, and she says that our bodies were never meant to confuse or to confound us. And I love that, because for me, like learning my cycle, living in alignment with it, learning the fertility awareness method have been keys in just feeling so grounded and secure and empowered in my body. And I'm so excited for us to dive into that, into more about the womb and supportive practices. We have period self-care tips. Yeah, all sorts of good stuff with that.
Yeah. I was just talking to someone last night about ovulation. Here's a fun tip for you guys. Ovulation is when we're the most attractive and the most social. And so that's a biological reality. There's no way around it. If you ovulate, you're most attractive during that time in accordance to other people. That's something so small, but if you tap into your biology and realize, oh my God, I can schedule interviews and business meetings, I can do networking events, like we know something that small and you schedule those things around that time, you're already that much more likely to succeed because people like you more during that time and you look better. So I think that's like really interesting, and it's the fun part of getting into your cyclical nature, is living in a way that feels really, really good in alignment with what's happening inside.
And when you do that, you can have permission to be full cave woman on your period.
Yeah, that's what we do. We bleed at the same time. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so you guys won't be getting podcasts on those days.
No podcasts. Yeah. Another thing, I want to get into sex. And I'm very interested in breaking the taboo that mothers can't be sexy, because like sex creates motherhood. Like they are one. And so I want to talk about that and just like start really, really getting into our yonis.
Absolutely.
Like we should be able to talk about our yonis, our vaginas, whatever word feels most suiting for you, like without it being taboo.
Yeah.
And we should feel comfortable enough. We should all know what our vaginas look like. And I just want to talk about all of it. Like, oh, maybe we could have a yoni event.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of things. People like draw their yonis, they do yoni gazing with mirrors. Those have been hugely beneficial practices in my life, just because like that's your womb, your yoni, that's your center of power as a woman. Life is literally created there. So having a relationship is it's life-changing. And it's simple. It can be really simple.
Okay, can we do our first episode about yonis?
Yeah.
Okay. There it is, guys. We will be talking about vaginas for our next episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to join us in this space and learn a little bit about who we are. We're here to broaden the world's perspective of what it means to be women, journeying through sisterhood together and sharing our discoveries with the world. Women are the common denominator, and we are our greatest teachers. In sisterhood, Natalie and Ira. You can keep up with us on Instagram at This Is Women Podcast. We hope to see you there.